start recording. All right, everybody, welcome once again to ECI's Tropical Tiny Home webinar. We are so thrilled to have you on here with us. I'm currently in Belize right now. I'm looking out the window. It's a beautiful sunny day here, a balmy day in Belize. I know I have my family up in New York and they were saying they were getting some more snow today. So don't envy that, but I'm glad that all of you on are perhaps thinking about ownership of a tiny home in a beautiful tropical location. During the webinar here today, we are going to talk about why tiny homes, and then we're going to dive into more information about opportunities within Belize, Nicaragua, and Panama. And then we will spend time going through your questions at the end. So if you have any questions that pop into mind, make sure you jot those down in that Q&A section of the webinar, and we will get to them. Also, if there are any resources that we mentioned throughout the presentation that you would like, we have handbooks for all the countries we're going to talk about. We have informational webinars that we've done previously. Just feel free to email us there, info@ecidevelopment.com, and we'll make sure we send you those resources after the presentation. We are going to be covering a lot of great detail. We are going to be recording this as well, so you'll get a copy of the recording. But for your more specific questions, jot those down in the Q&A or just shoot us an email for additional information. So my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for ECI Development. I moved down to Latin America, to Nicaragua specifically in 2012, and am here in Belize at this point. I ended up buying real estate here in 2016 and made this my full-time home. About 5-6 years ago, I obtained my residency in Panama, residency meaning a green card. So it is an option if I at some point decide to go to Panama and live there full-time or perhaps work there. But in the meantime, Belize is currently home. With me today, I also have a very special guest, our Chief Operating Officer, Patrick Hebert. Patrick was really the brainchild behind the whole tiny home communities. And as a development company, we have been developing different neighborhoods and communities in various countries across the region. But it was really Patrick who had this great idea of implementing and introducing the tiny home neighborhoods to our different properties. So Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you? And then we'll hear from Ali, and then we'll continue on about why tiny homes.
Well, first of all, I'd still like to look like the picture. Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Hebert. I'm actually a Canadian, but a Canadian citizen, but a resident of Nicaragua. It says living and working in Panama. I guess I'm kind of living and working in a lot of countries right now. So we have properties throughout Central America and expanding into South America as well. So yeah, I'm just joining Rachel and Ellie here on the webinar to help out with any questions that I can.
Awesome, thank you. And with us, we also have Ali Rodriguez. Ali is our referral network coordinator director. And Ali, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and your story?
Yeah, so thanks everybody for being on this webinar today. I recognize a lot of names that are here on the screen. So thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us and hear more about these tiny homes. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, moved to Belize about 3 years ago and haven't looked back really. So glad to bring these opportunities to you guys and talk to you a little bit more specifically about Belize and tiny homes.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to just jump right in. So what we're seeing as a development company, we as ECI have been in the space for about 25 years at this point, working in various countries throughout Latin America, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Belize, Panama, and we are also looking at more future acquisitions in countries like Ecuador and Argentina. And what we're seeing, there are a handful of reasons why people are buying real estate overseas. And perhaps one of these reasons that you see here on the screen resonate with you. Maybe you're looking for that global diversification. Over the past year, I can tell you we've seen this reason pop up more often than not, where people may not necessarily like what's going on in their home country or don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, as I'm sure we've all heard that saying before. So they're looking to diversify into a different country. And that just helps generally protect your overall portfolio. We're also seeing that through some tiny home programs or through some real estate programs, you are able to obtain a residency. So essentially think a green card in that country. For example, in Nicaragua, with only a $30,000 investment, you're at least $30,000 investment into the country, you are able to apply for residency. So we've had a handful of our tiny homeowners decide to get their residency in Nicaragua as a nice pro to the ownership of the real estate side as well. So it's a plan B. It's a great way to protect your most important asset, which is you. In addition to that, we see a lot of people who are looking to own real estate overseas as an investment opportunity. The countries that we're going to talk about all vary on the real estate investment curve in terms of location and what you can expect in terms of investment, whether it's appreciation or rental income. And for those people who are thinking about being on the path of progress, thinking about ownership of real estate before a place gets way too popular and outprices them, they're going to see a lot more potential there for great investment. So we're going to talk about a few of those countries today. And then perhaps you're that person who's thinking about relocation. Maybe you want to come down to this part of the world as a snowbird for a few months out of the year when it's a little bit chillier up north, or maybe you're just thinking generally about relocating. You've had enough of what's going on. You want to get to a simpler, more relaxed pace of life. Well, then this could be the right part of the world for you. So overall, we know that there's a study that the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, have done, and they say that about 1 out of every 10 North Americans wants to own real estate overseas. So to 11, a little bit more than 1 out of 10, 11.6% of North Americans want to own real estate overseas. So I'm guessing you are all on this webinar today because you want to learn more about ownership of real estate overseas, and we're happy to be here to really help support you and guide you through that ownership process. So just depending on the sort of investment that you're looking or your goals overall, it's going to help determine where it is you buy. What you see here on the screen is the real estate investment curve. And countries that are at the top part of the real estate investment curve are places that are more mature in the rental marketplace. They are countries like Pacifica, Costa Rica, countries like Panama, where it's been around. They've been around for a long period of time in terms of tourism. So we're getting people who are going there, but we also know that real estate prices are more expensive because it is more popular. And in those countries at the top part of the curve, you tend to have a nice cash flow, but in terms of pricing, it's a much higher entry in. Now, as you go to the bottom part of the curve, what you find are properties in countries that may not be as popular as places at the top, but there's more opportunity there for levels of appreciation. So if you're thinking about land banking or holding onto a property for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and see something back from that, then that's where you want to be. Countries like Nicaragua, Caribbean, Costa Rica really are top locations for those forward-thinking investors and people who are looking for something a little bit different. Now, if you're looking for the best of both worlds, I'd say that Belize is definitely at one of the best locations there. Even within Nicaragua, the Grand Pacifica property that we have, I would say is closer to that middle part of the curve because there's already a market there. We've established it over the past 15 years. So that's also closer to the middle part of the curve. But you'll find just depending on where it is and what you're looking to accomplish will depend where it is you decide to own. So we're going to jump into tiny homes in a moment here, but I do want to mention that the tiny homes we're going to be talking about today are in these 3 countries, Belize, Nicaragua, and Panama. And as you hear anything where you want the specifics, feel free to let us know via email. We can, of course, go through your questions at the end of the presentation, but we're covering a lot of information in a short period of time, but we at least want to give you the general information there. And what you'll see is that each of the tiny homes in each of these countries is they're really different. When you look at the different homes, there's a reason for that as well. As our company motto is that we build real estate throughout Latin America. So we understand that not everybody is looking for the same thing. I'm sitting here in the Caribbean, but not everybody may like the Caribbean. Some people may prefer the Pacific waters. Some may prefer the tropical highlands where it's a cooler climate. And so what we were able to do was integrate this concept of tiny homes into the different countries where we work to be able to offer tiny homes available for everybody, just depending on what it is you're looking to accomplish. And as we go into new countries like Argentina or Chile or Ecuador, we'll be able to add to the portfolio as well. So Patrick, why don't you get us started here and tell us a little bit more about the tiny homes and what really inspired you to get it integrated into the ECI portfolio?
All right, well, let me start a little bit for how I got into it. You know, about 20 years ago now, I sold a software company and took a little time off and did what, you know, .com people did, you know, bought a big house and sports car and things like that. And then I realized that, you know, that's just a lot of work and it's a lot of stress. The homes are, you know, a big home, big yard is just a lot of work. And so I, you know, moved into a smaller home and then moved into a condominium, and eventually I love sailing, so eventually moved into a boat. And you know, when you're living on the ocean in a boat, it's, first of all, it's a tiny space, and you know, it's kind of the minimalist living, you know, self-sustaining with your fishing and all those sorts of things. But it's also, you don't have a long extension cord to, you know, back to the lamp. So you learn, you know, conservation of electricity and water, and as well as producing it on board. So I really, spent a lot of time learning about, eco-friendly concepts and tiny home living and, smart technologies and things like that, obviously with my background in software, and wanted to combine all those things together into, a land-based thing, not necessarily on a boat. So, we fast forward a few years and we created an eco-friendly community in our Grand Pacifica property. And then, well, we talk about it as a paradigm shift. And as this slide says, the tiny minimalist living isn't really just a fad anymore. I mean, the tiny homes kind of started in the 80s, built up popularity slowly. Somewhere around 2014 or so, it got much more popular. Now, there's several reasons for that. We can talk a bit about that later. But what I wanted to explain with this slide is, you're investing, if you're investing in a tiny home, especially if it's for like a return on investment type of investment, then you're really dealing with a paradigm shift. And paradigm shifts are kind of amazing places to either, make or break money. I mean, a very quick personal story. The software company I had was managing natural gas to start off with, natural gas, oil, and the energy industry. And as those businesses deregulated from government-run industries to private industry, we went from 2 or 3 potential customers to thousands. And that was a paradigm shift that made our software suddenly be in the right place at the right time. And a few years later, I started a company that was doing telephone. Well, my partner from the first company had moved to Cayman Islands, and we realized that calling from the Cayman Islands to Canada, where I was at the time, was $2 a minute, and for me to give him a phone call was 18 cents a minute or whatever. So there was this big disparity. So I set up some servers in a closet, and you could go online and you can I could type in his number and type in my number, and it would join the calls together for 2 18-cent calls for a 36-cent call, and then sell it to other people in the Caribbean and other places like that. And that went great. It was computers, no employees, just computers working in a closet. But then the paradigm shift happened, and voice over IP happened, and we didn't move fast enough. And all of a sudden it went to Skype, and your 36-cent call became 0.01 cent. Right? So I've been on the side of good paradigm shifts and been on the side of paradigm shifts that hurt. But anyway, to go into this one a little bit more, but there's lots of paradigm shifts that you've been through. Like when I was a kid, we had Encyclopedia Britannica. Now you Google everything, right? Nobody even thinks about that anymore. Wi-Fi on airplanes is becoming more and more common. So you can get work done on a plane. My most interesting one I had the other day was an Uber car came to pick me up, and it was without a driver. It was a Tesla car with no driver. Oh my gosh. And I didn't think I'd actually be alive, in that to see that kind of thing, but it was pretty cool. So there are lots of paradigm shifts happening. So can I do it with this?
Yeah, we'll do that. There we go.
Okay.
So we're gonna just jump right in and talk a little bit more about these tiny homes.
Yeah, I don't have to read all the slides for you. I mean, we can go through this part, fairly quickly. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits to tiny homes. For me, there's a number of things. Obviously, a smaller space, right? I mentioned earlier, it's less stressful to take care of a smaller space, and smaller space obviously is less expensive to heat or cool, or in our case, in the tropics, to air condition, and so your bills, we do gray water recycling and things like that too. So your water bills go down, your power bill goes down, with the sustainability of the, communal orchards and gardens and things, you can be pretty much self-sufficient in these tiny home communities. So it really is, a removal of stress and costs, what it boils down to. And, going on about the paradigm shift, have you ever felt like simplifying your life? A good half of Americans have. Right. And the trend now is called right sizing, where for us, the size of the tiny home, everybody thinks, well, I can't really live in that. And maybe if it was in North Dakota, it'd be difficult in the winter because you're in a small space. But where we are in the tropics, what are you really using in your home? You're using the kitchen and you're using the bedroom. You don't need a great room, you don't need a big living room, you don't need all these other things, because outdoors becomes all those other things. And so you spend all your time outside, except when you're kind of cooking and sleeping. So, the tiny home idea doesn't really change your life that much, other than like for myself now, I take my laptop and I go work outside on the deck and watch a Super Bowl outside or whatever. So it, the whole right sizing thing is just built around what do you really need for living, and especially in these climates. So there's been a huge growth especially in the last 6-7 years of the tiny home market. And when we're talking about tiny homes, so we're generally talking under 600 square feet, and there's other categories above that, mini homes and others. But the trend of tiny homes in general has been very popular. And I think one of the main reasons, and I'm not sure, well, we do have it on this slide, one of the main reasons for the popularity is it's an ideal location for digital nomads. And by digital nomads, it's basically knowledge workers who have chosen to work in one place for 4 months, the next place for 3 months, and so on, and just keep doing that. And you can move around the world and continue to do your work. If what we call a knowledge worker, somebody that can work from home, basically. And another reason for the most recent extreme boom in this market has been, with everybody having to work from home because of COVID, we've really seen two things. It's the same, two sides of the same coin. One side is employees have realized that they can work from home, but maybe more importantly, employers have realized that their employees can work from home.
Right.
So what you really see is people, a huge boost in the number of people that are able to work from home.
Right, and we're seeing that now already too. We're here in Belize, and I've met so many people at this point who are down here for some stint of time, whether it's a month or 6 months or plus. They're just coming down here because they're able to open up their computer, work from the beach, do their conference calls, do their emails, or whatever it is they want. And then from there, they're able to enjoy the tropics like this. So I think that it really has been a huge reality check for a lot of businesses to realize, and people to realize that they can digitize what they're doing and do it from anywhere.
And the other one thing from the previous slide,
Oh, sure.
no worry, don't go back there, but the one thing from the previous slide is people think, oh, it's just a millennial thing, right? And it's not. 40% of tiny home owners are over 50 years old in my category, right? So, and then if we move on to we call our communities test communities, tiny eco smart communities. And so that obviously the tiny and the tiny homes, eco-friendly is the second part of that. And as it says on here, it really needs no explanation that, everyone these days is thinking about how to be more earth-friendly. And tiny homes are, by just their size alone, are eco-friendly because they're a small footprint, they take less power. And we do a lot of things. We have, like I said, we have gray water reuse. In many of the communities we have, they're entirely off-grid. Some of them are hybrid homes. And, so we're really taking advantage of features, the grass roofs, green roofs. And that's not that we think that's adding a lot of oxygen to the air or anything, but it does help a lot in insulation, and it again helps your electricity bill and everything like that. So we're doing a lot of different concepts here. You can see in the last one, wind turbines, desalination. You'll see one of our communities is over the water, over ocean water, so we have to remove the salt from it to make it potable water, and a lot of these sorts of concepts that are built into the eco-friendly. And on the sustainability movement, I mentioned it earlier, we have generally almost all of our communities have a communal orchard, communal gardens, kind of like the hobby farms. So, if you want to have chickens and laying eggs and things like that, you can really become self-sustaining in these communities. So we're going to look at a few of the different capabilities of the smart technology. Some people like it, some don't. I fully understand that. I'm a bit of a nerd from my software days, I guess, but I really like it's gotten pretty bad in my house. I get to the point where I ask Alexa for everything. The other day I asked Alexa to bring me a piece of pizza, and I realized she doesn't have legs or arms.
But she could call a place that could deliver pizza for you.
It's true, but she can't go pick it up from my door. But I mean, it sounds like it's just a cute technology, but we really use it for money saving as well. For instance, in my apartments that I have in Central America, when I leave them, if I get to the airport, it has a geofencing feature where it turns off all my air conditioning and all sorts of things, so I can't forget anything on. I can analyze the power usage. Obviously, you can have security cameras. Right, but I also use what I would call the lazy features. Like when I get home, I say, "Hey Alexa, I'm home," and she turns on the radio station that I like, and the coffee maker goes on, and all the different things. But it's not just for convenience. It is really for saving money, and that in the big picture is a big thing about the whole tiny eco movement. I mean, we all know eco-friendly means that you're being a good Earth citizen. But we call ourselves eco-sensible and not eco-crazy, eco-fanatics, because to me, the eco-friendly movement really gets traction when it has financial benefits as well. So everything that we do on the eco side, and anyone is also, I mean, obviously solar panels are great, but they also keep you from having to pay a power bill. So, there's a connection there, right? So thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate your help with the
buttons.
Of course. So I've explained a little bit about the smart home technology, but one of the other things it lets you do is analyze the power usage that you do have, and you can learn from it, right? This is an example on the left side of the screen there where you're controlling your air conditioner. And again, the nice thing about it too is when you have, for instance, a rental property like one of these tiny homes, you can say, what this is in Celsius at 23, but that's roughly 76 or something like that, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So you could say at 70 degrees, if the renter, the guest, turns it below 65, that's the limit, right? Because some people come into a rental unit. I have rental units, and I see this all the time. They turn it to its absolute maximum,
right,
low as it can go, and then they go to the beach and they come home and there's icicles hanging on the windows, and it's extremely expensive to air condition homes down to that. Now, good thing these are tiny homes, but we can control them with this kind of smart technology and say if you walked out the door, or if you set it too low, which isn't humanly comfortable, then we'll set it back. So.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to just jump right in there, and Ali, you're up. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the homes in Belize?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Good job, Patrick. I don't have much in the way of details to share with you guys, so we'll kind of run through the basic ideas behind the test community in Belize. Like I mentioned previously, I am originally from Texas and moved to Belize about 3 years ago now, and I will just say that this particular community is it's fun. It's fun, and it's very different than what we're used to seeing here in Belize. Oh, perfect. Oh, no. Go back one there. All right, so Rachel mentioned this a bit earlier in the presentation about that investment return curve, and it really truly is based around what are your goals. If you want to be at the high end of the curve and have instant return on investment, then you are looking more at Panama, Pacific, Costa Rica. But if you'll see there, right in the middle of the curve, which is like what we call the sweet spot, is Belize. Belize is beginning to be noticed as the tourism increases and flights previous to COVID were just accelerating and increasing rapidly on just trying to get people down here. They couldn't meet the demand, and so the flights were increased to get here. So there is movement into this area. People are starting to see Belize and recognize Belize and want to know more about it, and even investing in Belize in real estate. So why Belize? Just some quick, I'm just going to talk about the first three there, but easy access from North America. Like I just mentioned, flights to get to Belize from let's say Texas, where I'm from, is about 2.5 hours. There are direct flights from different parts of the country. So it's very easy to get to and from Belize, which is good for many reasons. If you have family that you are, leaving back home in the States and you need to get back to them quickly, it's fairly easy to get a quick flight back. English is the official language. This one was a big one for me because I am from Texas and I know a little bit of Spanish, but moving into the Latin America region, I wasn't sure that I would be able to get around and communicate. And so it makes things very easy and comfortable in a lifestyle perspective, but also when you are going through the process of purchasing your home, you're able to read the documents and communicate with those experts on a level that's comfortable and feels good because you know what they're saying and you're able to read the documentation and understand that. And then affordable Caribbean real estate, that's something that we'll talk about a little bit more specifically, but the hotspots, we talked about the investment curve, and so affordable Caribbean real estate, you can join or own your own piece of paradise for much less than you would say in Panama or even on the coast there in California. All right, so I mentioned that tourism is on the rise, and these are pre-COVID numbers, but as we're seeing just here in the last couple of months, as flights are beginning to return to the area and to Belize specifically, people are coming. They are wanting to get back and escape the winter and be in the tropics and enjoy the water and have the breeze and just enjoy all of the things that Belize has to offer. So Belize tourism is on the rise, and you can see how much that has grown just in the last 10 years or so. We do expect for it to continue to grow and get back to normal here within about a year or so. So Ambergris Caye is like Key West 20 years ago. Would you have wanted to go back in time and invested in Key West 20 years ago? The answer is probably yes, whether it was for a lifestyle perspective or a purely investment perspective. Chances are that you would go back and own something there in Key West. So think of Ambergris Caye as being like Key West 20 years ago and just being in that sweet spot of getting in while the real estate is affordable. So Ambergris Caye. Ambergris Caye is the largest key here in Belize. And it's right off the mainland. It's about an hour and a half on the boat, about 15 minutes on a puddle jumper. But something that just is so striking about Ambergris Caye is that it produces 70% of the entire country's tourism. 70%, 70% of the tourism revenue comes from this island. And that is why we have seen so much of a rise in tourism, is that the opportunity to relax and enjoy the calmer island lifestyle, but being so close to the United States, like I mentioned earlier, and also to the mainland activities are what are driving people to come and visit. So here's just a picture of what Ambergris Caye looks like today. You can see that there's no high rises, there are no really big skyscrapers or anything like that. It's still a very quaint and comfortable community. You've got a few over the water bars and docks here, but you can see all the boats, mostly sailboats. There's lots of sailing here. We even have a sailing club. So lots of fun to see the boats going by on those perfect days for sailing. And then this charming, colorful community. One of the reasons that I ended up staying here in Belize is just everybody is so friendly. Their lifestyle is calm and relaxed, and they are just the most friendly and welcoming people. You can communicate with them. They'll sit and tell you stories for hours. They'll talk to you about their culture and their background. And it's just something that's a lot of fun and welcoming. But also something to know is that here on the island, there are a few full-size vehicles. Mostly if you have an actual automobile, it's like a Mini Cooper or something tiny like that. But the primary mode of transportation here is golf carts. So it makes it a lot of fun to drive around town and wave at your friends. And it's just very relaxed. And you can see here the golf carts parked along Front Street there. And just obviously the fish and just the scenery in general is just incredible. This is Front Street. This is the Central Park in Front Street. Lots of colorful Caribbean feel to even the park benches. And then, of course, the best diving in the world. So we are located, Ambergris Caye is located right off the largest living reef in the world. So, you have the Great Barrier Reef, but the reef here is the largest living reef in the world. And the diving is absolutely incredible. When you think of vibrant and lots of movement within the marine life. It's here, and it is, I cannot just specify enough how beautiful the diving and even snorkeling is here off Ambergris Key. So Belize tiny homes, I'm gonna run through these details fairly quickly, but just know that if you have questions, you can type them into that Q&A there at the bottom as I go through this, or feel free to email us at info@ecidevelopment.com. So these tiny homes are something that are one of a kind to Belize, and you've probably seen these in Bora Bora, the concept of having the boardwalk with the tiny homes or the casitas kind of surrounding it. So think about that when you think of these tiny homes here in Belize. So it is located on the west side of the island, meaning it's not on the Caribbean side, it's on the west side of the island, which protects it from, you know, the hurricane winds and things like that. Quick 5-minute boat ride. It is not at this point accessible yet by car, but yes, it's a 5-minute boat ride directly from downtown San Pedro, which is where most of your shopping and things like that, restaurants, nightlife, and things like that is located. So Patrick mentioned what TESS stands for. T is for tiny, E is for eco-friendly, and S is for smart. And something I want to just kind of point out real quickly is that these homes are over the water. And so there was very special consideration that was taken into the design and build of these homes. There was a lot of permits that we had to go through because it is a protected marine reserve where these are located. So we have been eco-conscious and are doing everything we need to do in coordination with the Belize government and lands and permits to make sure that these tiny homes are respecting the ecosystem of the marine reserve there. All right, so just some quick updates here about what these will look like. Here's some renderings that we have of this is a 1-bedroom model. It's called the Sea Turtle. We have one home left in this community for this first phase. So there's one home left. It is a 1-bedroom model. So this would be similar to what is planned for this particular model. You can see out the window there, the homes, but one home left at $169,900 plus closing and furniture. We had some other models here. We had a starfish model, which was the loft model. That one is sold out. We also had a blue coral model, which was a studio model that is also sold out for this phase. And then, of course, you know, like Patrick mentioned, yes, these are tiny homes. They're about a little over 330 square feet, but you also have the outdoor space, you know, specific to your home. But you also will have access to these third spaces, you could say these common areas that will have areas for relaxation and just places for you to gather as a community and talk to each other and get to know each other. So there's so much more living you can do outside of your home if that's what you're looking for, to have that additional space. So just some more pictures here of what those will look like. And there's another common area here. Think about getting together and birthday parties or barbecues or just enjoying a cocktail out, you know, out on the boardwalk there. And so we're not going to go through much of this, but as you can see, we do expect the ADR to be about right around $175 a night, with average occupancy on the island being about 59%. But every situation is different depending on if you're paying cash or financing and things like that. So if you want to speak more specifically about this with Rachel or one of our awesome property consultants, just email us at info@ecidevelopment.com and we will set up a time to speak more specifically about you and your circumstances. So, Rachel, you are up.
All right, thank you there. For some reason, it took me a moment to unmute, so thanks for your patience, everyone. But all right, Ali, you did a great job there. And Ali, what you really, and for everybody listening, Belize is a really great option for folks who want to serve the market of the incoming tourists into Belize. Obviously, it's a Caribbean destination. You saw the dive map that Ali showed. You saw some photos of what it's like here on the island, but it is a really charming, colorful Caribbean town. And if you're thinking more of the Caribbean sort of investment, then I would recommend Belize. We're also going to jump into Nicaragua now. And Nicaragua is a great option for people who understand that there's a market of adventure travelers and wants to serve this group of people who are coming down, or perhaps you're looking to relocate for a quieter, slower, more affordable pace of life. Then Nicaragua could be the right option for you. So within Nicaragua, we have a larger community called Grand Pacifica. It's about 2,500 acres. We have different neighborhoods throughout Grand Pacifica. And as Patrick mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there was the first community that we did there called Milagro Verde, which was an off-grid community, totally off the grid for people who wanted to live sustainably. And so those homes are a little bit larger. They are custom homes, range anywhere from about 2,500 to 6,000 square feet. But what we realized is, yes, there is this tiny home movement. There is a tiny home trend. There are digital nomads who are planning to spend considerable amount of time in the region. There are a lot of surfers who are coming down to Nicaragua. And so we wanted to capitalize on this market and really take advantage of the really great space that we have there and the location of where these tiny homes are going to be located. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole why Nicaragua presentation. We did this a couple of months ago, and it was about an hour long. So if you would like a copy of that webinar, just email us at that email address you saw, info@ecidevelopment.com. Just put Nicaragua 101 webinar in the subject line, and we can send that recording to you. But there are many reasons why people are coming down to Nicaragua. I know you might hear the name of the country and go, oh my gosh, it's from in the 70s and 80s, it was deemed this really dangerous place to go. That was also about 35, 40 years ago. So if you're someone who is a progressive thinker, you're someone who thinks outside the box, perhaps you've heard of Costa Rica or been to Costa Rica, but Costa Rica's plateaued and you want to get into a place that is more entry level, more affordable, then I would highly consider Nicaragua. It is considered one of the safest countries in the Americas. I know that surprises people quite often when we say it, but it is one of the safest countries in the Americas. When I moved down there in 2012, I gave my parents about a 2 weeks notice and I said, all right, I got this internship in Nicaragua. I'm going to move down. And their reaction was, oh my gosh, you're going to get kidnapped. It's the most dangerous place in the world. But the reality is very, very different than what the perception is. And that creates a great opportunity for people who are looking for different spaces and different options. Now, I'm not going to go through all these reasons here, but it is, of course, one of the safest. Also, the people, and this is just a general theme that you'll find all across the board, is the people are just so unbelievably nice in this region. And you don't necessarily need to speak Spanish in order to get by. It does definitely help if you're thinking about living there, but from the vacation perspective, it really doesn't matter. And then one of the big reasons why people are moving down or investing in Nicaragua is because it's so affordable. It has one of the lowest cost of living in all of the Americas. And so it's very affordable. Sometimes we give presentations and we talk about what the general cost is on a monthly basis. And you can get a housekeeper there for about $200 a month. So you're able to live pretty well and pretty affordably should you choose. But what that also means is that Nicaragua really is at this unique spot on the real estate investment curve, because it is just starting to emerge. Now, I'd say 2015, 16, you started to hear more and more about Nicaragua, and people were starting to go down there because it was more of an adventure travel place. And they were choosing Nicaragua instead of Costa Rica because it was more affordable. There were direct flights to get there. But what we're seeing now is that Nicaragua, I can even thin slice Nicaragua a little bit more like you see Costa Rica and put Grand Pacifica really at that middle spot of the curve. And I say that because Grand Pacifica as a development has been around in the marketplace in Nicaragua for the past 15, 16 years. And as a result, we've already built a name for our company there. We've built a name for the real estate side, from the resort side as well. So Nicaragua, is at the bottom part of the curve because there's just generally a lot of room for appreciation. But once you get to Grand Pacifica, you're really there closer to the middle part of the curve because we've been marketing Nicaragua. We've been there as a resort for the past 15 years. So you'll find that there is opportunities for appreciation, and we are already receiving that cash flow. Nicaragua as a country never shut down over the past year. The borders remained open, and people had the choice to, if they were business owners, to close down if they wanted to. And I think this made it a very attractive place for a lot of people who were looking for a country that really depicted true freedoms. So here are some pictures from the Grand Pacifica property already. We have 2 of the best surf breaks in Central America right in front of the property. I mentioned a little bit before, it's a huge community. It's about 2,500 acres. We have about 3.5 miles of beachfront, and you have, if you're a surfer, we have the 2 really great waves. One's called the meat grinders, which is really for the experienced people. Then we have another one, which is the beginner one. The one that you see on the left-hand side is one that I attempted to learn how to surf at, but it truly is a beautiful location. And then where the Ava community is, it loops around a river. So you have the river there, and you're just a short walk from the beach right there on the Asachio beach. And like with the other communities, there are many sustainable living factors that we're incorporating: the green roof, which Patrick alluded to earlier, gray water recycling, the off-grid living. So you will have solar panels, which will be conducting energy that you'll be utilizing in the house. And Ava as a community, what we understand is that in the tropics, people live outside. I mean, we tend to sit here in the office during the day or go home at night, but a lot of the living actually happens in outdoor spaces. And so within the Ava community, there are going to be those third spaces, the pool, the park areas, or if you want to go have a picnic, maybe you're into growing fruits and vegetables, you can have your own garden or go to the community orchard, or there'll be a palapa there for you to go do some yoga should you choose, or a viewing platform if you want to just sit up there and enjoy the views and the sunset. So there are a lot of features integrated into Ava that we've thought about thoroughly. And because we already have Grand Pacifica established, there's a nice benefit to being within the Grand Pacifica community. And as I mentioned, it is on the Asachio Beach. The Asachio Beach is most definitely one of the best beaches for just boogie boarding and swimming and just surfing for those beginners and people there who are in the middle part there of learning how to surf. And then, all right, so just looking at the different models, there are a few models available. There are 4 in total at Grand Pacifica. We do have financing available. The smallest is the Perico model, which is about 258 square feet, going for about $92,000. And then on the flip side is the Macaw. The Macaw is the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, going for about $129,000 plus the closing cost and furniture. There's also the Laura model, which is about $97,000, and then the Halcone model, which is about $99,000. So each of them have a very distinct floor plan. One, depending on what your ultimate goal is and what you're trying to accomplish, you may see that one floor plan better fits your needs than the other. And so what I'm happy to do, I'm not gonna go through each nook and cranny here, but what I would recommend doing is if you'd like to see each of the models, just let us know, Ava, and we'll be able to get those details to you. I think some of the 2 of the more popular have been the Laura model, which is what you see here, and then also the Macaw model, which is the 2-bed, 2-bath. And then within the Ava community, there are about 100 homes at this point. We have about 15 remaining. So you see those little green circles there with the numbers. We have about 15 remaining. But when you just take a look at the site map, you can see that we've included the orchards and the gardens and the pool and the palapa space, and an artisan market is going to be coming eventually as well. And so you can see also with the proximity to the beach, you can be there in just a couple of minutes. So I would highly recommend folks who are into the Pacific, maybe you're a surfer, or maybe you just want to serve this group of people who are coming down to Nicaragua, this would be a great option for you. And we're seeing now that, and what we've had historically at Grand Pacifica is large wellness groups and yoga retreats coming down. We've also served a lot of weddings. So the reason that this is a really important community is because we will be able to cater towards the larger groups that are coming. Whereas previously we only had 22 condos that were beachfront. So for people who wanted to be in the beachfront after we've sold out those condos, then they really didn't have an option that was close to the water. So there's some conceptual renderings. And then again, I know there's a lot of information on here, but if you'd like to see more information about the potential return on investment, let me know and we'll get that information over to you. We have a couple of different standards just based on whether the industry standard case, which is what we've seen, or the conservative case based on the more conservative, let's say the COVID numbers here. But again, happy to send this over to you. I don't need to go through them right now, but we're looking at net projections after fees, expenses, all of that would be about 14% in year 1, and then it ramps up over time to about 25% return on investment. Again, these are just numbers, just projections based on how we've seen the homes and the condos that we have currently rented doing previously. All right, so if you're interested in Ava, let us know. We'll get those details to you. But what I'm going to do right now, I'm just looking at the time here. Okay, I'm going to jump into Panama. and then we'll go through your questions and answers. I'll probably spend about 7 to 8 minutes on Panama so that we have time for your questions. But Panama is personally one of my favorite countries. It's a country I've been a resident of for the past 5-6 years. And what I was really excited about when we acquired this property in the tropical highlands, it was about beginning of last year, was just that we were offering a different geography to folks. I live on the beach, but the reality is I am more of a mountains person. And I'm guessing some of you on the line are as well, where you like the hiking and the trails and the whitewater rafting. And so this was so exciting to see this property come together because it offers all of that in a really stable country, in a country that I think is personally one of the best in the region. But Panama, like the other countries like Costa Rica, can be thin sliced. There are some parts of the countries that is more developed than others. And so you're going to find that places in Panama City or even Boquete more generally are going to be a little bit more expensive than places that aren't yet developed and don't yet have that infrastructure in. But we can say generally Panama is at the top part of the curve because it is a very stable country. It's very easy to get to. So we're seeing a lot of folks coming for those reasons. But here are the top 8 reasons. We're going to go through just a couple of them. I think a lot of folks like Panama because of the easy access worldwide. So you're able to get from most countries, or not most, I'd say many countries, direct to Panama. Copa Airlines is based there in Panama City. So you have people who are coming direct and you have a lot more flight options than you do in other parts of Central America. In addition to that, there's a really strong economy. So because there is the Panama Canal, think of the Panama Canal as an ATM machine for the country. Every time a boat or a yacht or a cruise ship I guess not cruise ships right now, but every time a boat goes through there, money is just coming into the country, which means that there is improvement in infrastructure regularly. It's a developing country that has a city like you see there in the top part of the screen, Panama City, that's often referred to as the Miami of Latin America. And then number 7 on here, something I also want to mention is the healthcare. This country has some of the best healthcare in the world. We see a lot of medical tourism in this country. So if you're somebody who is looking for a place to relocate to and medical is important to you, then I would highly recommend Panama. And so the property that we have is located right over here with that red pin. It's in between Boquete and David. If you have researched this area before, you know that Boquete is well known in the tourist and expat industry because it's a safe place. There's great infrastructure there. It's also a little bit cooler. It's springtime every day. So you have about mid 70s during the day and then low 60s at night. So it's a really comfortable sort of environment for a lot of people. And the airport is located in David, so you can fly from Panama City to David in about 45 minutes. And then you are able to either rent a car or get a car, whatever you'd like to do, and then get there to the property. And so we have about 108 acres in total. We are starting with the first phase that you'll see here, which will include tiny homes, condominiums, single family home lots, an artisan market, the orchards as well. There's already an orchard that is in place, an orange grove, which is really, really cool. I got oranges there last time. It was just absolutely delicious. But the area that we're going to focus on is number 18. So if you can follow my cursor, this is the first phase of the tiny homes test, Panama. We are still about a month or 2 away from actually launching this project, but we are very close to having the final details available to you. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a teaser. So here's a quick overview. You can see in the background there's the entrance. The orchard and gardens will be on the right-hand side, the artisan market continuing on. And then test phase 1 is going to be about a block down from where this picture actually shows. But we're excited about it because a lot of the infrastructure is already in, but you feel like you're in this tropical, jungly environment with close access to Boquete and David. And what's neat is you do have the natural rivers and creeks running through the property, and it just feels like you have that jungly sort of environment. So with these test homes, some things that I want to mention to you, I think the thing that I find really interesting is the fact that it will include teak features. So teak hardwoods, some of you may be familiar with the teak that we have in Panama and Nicaragua, the plantations. So we'll be integrating teak into the construction of these homes. Teak is a beautiful hardwood. It's a very nice, expensive hardwood. It's used in a lot of construction for durability. And also using a lot of boats and outdoor furniture. So I'm excited about that. If you choose to add the smart features that Patrick talked about, you certainly can. And then we have a few different models just depending on what you're looking at. Now, I do want to clarify that 1, 3, 7, 9, and 11, a couple of them, and 4 of these, and 4 of the homes in this location are already sold. but just note that it's not really a river view. You do have jungles and greenery between you and the river, but it is going to be an area where you'll have a deck to be able to walk right out and have the greenery all around you. So think of it kind of as a tree house above the river there. So there are 3 different models. There's the hibiscus model, which is about 600 square feet, estimated at about $149,900 plus closing costs. So you can see the wood, the teak wood that will be integrated into the homes. The Heliconia model, again, about 600 square feet, $149,900 plus the closing costs and furniture. And then also the orchid model, so about $120,000 plus closing costs and furniture. So there are a few different models. Like I mentioned, we're about a month or 2 away from an official launch of this project. We have allowed folks to put down a refundable deposit to at least choose location. And then that way, when we do the official launch, they've already locked in their specific location. A couple of different considerations for you and then we'll jump into questions. One is we do accept cryptocurrency and self-directed IRAs. Self-directed IRA, if you are planning for it to be an investment, you cannot personally benefit from it. In addition to that, we do have up to 80% financing available. There are some property premiums. It's a little bit more expensive to finance 80%, but if you're looking at that option, it is available. And then also we do have it's a turnkey solution. So you're able to acquire the home, and in some countries, you're able to pair it up with residency. If residency is of interest to you, residency meaning that green card, let us know. We'd be happy to talk about it with you. In Nicaragua, one of the AVA homes would qualify you for residency because you've invested at least $30,000 into the country. In Panama, you need at least $10,000 invested in the country. So obviously your Panama home would qualify you for that. And then in Belize, it's a little bit more. It's about $250,000 that you need to invest in order to qualify for residency. So bear in mind that there are options. We're not going to get into, we just did a whole hour presentation about residencies last week or the week before, which we can send you, and we'd be glad to. Just let us know if you want more information, info@ecidevelopment.com. All right, so here is a quick overview. So we have one of the tiny homes in Belize, Nicaragua, and Panama, and we've had people who wanted to take advantage of all 3. We understand that they're all incredibly different. They're serving a different market. So if you are one of those folks who'd be interested in all 3, we do have a webinar special for you, saving about $20,000 that you're able to pick up a home in Belize, in Nicaragua, and then also there in Panama. So I would love to chat with you about your opportunities and options. What I would say, let me just mention this one and then we'll jump into questions. For our tiny homes, we have a couple more communities coming in Argentina or Chile, as I mentioned before, Mexico. We're doing a scouting trip in a couple weeks. This one, we're probably really, truly about 6 months away from actually having some concrete information. I know I've had a couple people ask me about Mexico already, but it is on our radar. And then also Ecuador for more of that tropical highlands. So if you would like more information, and perhaps this is your first time buying real estate in another country, I would highly recommend that you have the Global Property Resource Kit. This is a complimentary white paper that we'll send to you. Just email us there with that subject line, Global Resource Handbook or Kit or whatever you want to call it. We'll understand and we'll get that emailed over to you. One of the best parts of this handbook, I personally think, is the 15 must-ask questions when looking at property overseas. And I say that's one of the best because you may have heard the line before, you don't know what you don't know. And if you have purchased property in another country before, you understand that things are just a little bit different. If you haven't, well, having questions like, is it plumbed for hot water, is going to be part of your due diligence process because it's just not standard here. So make sure you request that. We'd be happy to email that over to you. And what we'll do now, I'm gonna just look at the time. So we have a few more minutes here. Let's go through your questions and answers. All right, Lisa saying, before I forget to ask, with no clothes washer or dryer in the tiny homes, is there a laundry service within the communities? Thank you. Yeah, great question. So each community will be a little bit different. In the AVA community, which is in Nicaragua, that is totally solar. That's all off grid. And the 2 biggest consumers, well, there are a few, but the 2 biggest consumers of energy that we can mitigate are dryers and dishwashers. And so there will be a wash machine there, and you can always hang dry your clothes. That's pretty standard in this part of the world, and they dry pretty quickly because it's warm out. But if you don't want to do that, you can also use the laundry service that we have at the hotels. They'll be able to do your laundry for you. and make it work. Within Belize, that is a hybrid system. So it's going to be using solar during the day, and then you'll connect up to the grid at night. And those homes do have an option for a washer dryer, one of those stackables should you choose. So it's just up to you. But if you wanted to use the facilities there at the property, you could do so as well. It'll just be a small fee. And then also the same in Panama. It'll be up to you actually, if you want a hybrid system or if you want a totally off the grid system. If you want something that's totally off the grid, well, do bear in mind that dryers and dishwashers probably shouldn't be in the home because they'll draw a lot of energy. But to answer your question there, Lisa, yes, there will be options for people to have a laundry service within the different neighborhoods and the rental programs. All right, I'm seeing JD's asking about HOA fees. All right, so the HOA fees vary across the project. In Belize, it's about $250 a month, and you're living over the water, so there's a little bit more maintenance that needs to be done, upkeep of the boardwalk. In addition, as Ali mentioned, the location of the tiny home in Belize is on the west side of the island, so there'll be a boat that goes back and forth for the owners and the residents, and that will be included in the HOA. In addition to that, it covers security from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. just if anyone gets locked out or anything along those lines. It's very comprehensive. I mean, we have a whole list if you'd like to see what's included in it. And then in Nicaragua, those homes are about $150 a month. And we are working on what it'll be for Panama, but we can certainly keep you updated. And then JD, if there's something specific that you wanted to know about or a specific home, I see you asked another question about the water, sewer, electric, trash. Just let us know and we can send you those specific because it is a little different per community. Janet is asking, do the tiny homes in Nicaragua have kitchens? Yes, they do. And we can certainly, Janet, send you the different models so you can take a look at what those look like. And then Sabrina and Jay said they want to be in touch about the test phases. You got it. All right, so Jay and Sabrina are asking about the solar and the battery storage within the square footage. I don't have that number off the top of my head, Jay, but we can certainly get that over to you. Do note that in the tiny homes in Belize, there will not be battery storage. It was one of the ECP, the environmental clearance requirements, because it is over the water and we wanted to make sure we weren't leaking or putting anything in the water. But that one will be just solar panels during the day and then connect up to the grid at night. And we can certainly talk to you about that a little bit more. All right, Taryn is asking, is there a plan where there'll be option to upgrade furniture as it ages or tech as it becomes obsolete? Yeah, that's a really great question, Taryn. And in our return on investment charts, it's typically within year 5 or 7 where we estimate that you'll have to do an upgrade for the furniture. There's just the general wear and tear, especially if you are renting it out. So within that 5 or 7 years, you'd be able to upgrade or replace as needed. Carol is asking if they're all dog friendly. Yes, they are all dog friendly. We do love pets and animals. So if you have a dog that you want to bring down, Carol, you're more than welcome to. Emily is asking where in Mexico. I can't tell you that part yet. I would say, Emily, circle back to us in a couple of months and we'll let you know. There are a couple of options that we're exploring, but we will certainly keep you posted as that all comes together. And then Sebi is saying, how does the financing work? So there are 2 options. You can finance 50%, up to 50%, or you can finance up to 80%. If you are financing either one, you'll work with Key International Bank. They're based here in Belize, they're actually located right across the street from us. So you'll be able to do your financing with them. Please note, and I don't want to get too nitty gritty into the details, in Panama, or if you're buying the property in Panama or Nicaragua and you're financing, you'll have to set up a Belize International Business Company. That Belize International Business Company will be the owner of the real estate. And then from there, the bank is able to finance that for you. If you're buying the property in Belize, you don't have to worry about that Belize IBC. You're able to title that in your personal name or however it is you choose to do that. But Sebi, if you have a specific project you're interested in, let us know and we can send you those details. All right, Jay and Sabrina are saying the rainy season concerning River David and the elevation concerning the 100-year floods. Yeah, that's a great question. So where we're located on the Rio David is there's a ridge. I mean, I don't know the how tall it is, but there is a ridge between the river and then where our property is. So I mean, it would have to go up quite substantially in order to even get to the property there. So we have hiking trails there already, so people are able to go down from the tiny home area and then go into the river. But it's definitely not at the same height. It's pretty substantially above the river. All right, another question I'm seeing is, do you have rental management programs? The answer is yes. So within all of our different communities, we have a rental management figured out and sorted. And within Belize, we've been here on the island since 1998, operating a hotel. So we have that part down pat. In Nicaragua, within Grand Pacifica, we've been operating that hotel for 14, 15 years. You can go to Grand Pacifica on TripAdvisor and see the reviews and pictures should you choose. So that's easy enough to just segue right in there. And then Panama, we will have it as well. All right, I see we're a little bit after the hour here. I do like to be respectful of everyone's time. So if we did not get in touch with if we didn't answer your question or we weren't able to get to it, I see a lot more here. Just reach out to us, info@ecidevelopment.com. We'll get those answered for you. And in the meantime, Ali, thank you so much for all of your assistance here. It's lovely having you on.
Yes, it was my pleasure.
Thank you. And then for anybody else, if you have any questions that pop into mind, reach out and we would love to hear from you. Have a really great day, everybody. Bye-bye.